Hey, we are live. Okay. Or at least fingers crossed. We are live. I think we have done it. Let's see here. Change some settings around. Oh Lord. Woo, early, haha. Hey Marcelian, how's it going? Give me just a second. I'm just trying some stuff. Give me just a second. I'm just trying some stuff. I need to change the setting real quick, which is that. Did that freeze the, Marcelian, did that freeze the screen? What I just did there? I really hope it didn't. You're my test person. How's it going? How's it going, everyone? Happy Monday. Welcome to the live stream. Hey, Jack. Hey, Misadventures. How are y'all's Mondays going? Misadventures. How are y'all's Mondays going? It made you repeat like 3 times. Good stuff. It's all good now. Hey, Zach. How are you? Happy Monday. I'm just checking something out real quick. Don't mind me. We'll get started any second now. Let's see here. My Monday was great, Jack. It's been good. Hey, Paul. How are you? My Monday has been really chill. Let's see. I didn't work today. I did some physical therapy. I did some reading. You were familiar with the video game Fortnite? I played some Fortnite, so that's how my Monday's been. I was actually productive today too. Aaron Boyce, what's up? How are you? Hey, Aaron. Hope you're well. Thanks for stopping by. Okay. So, live stream. We're good. I spent my day grading 20 papers. Ooh, Marcelian. That sounds terrible. Victor's here. Hey, Victor. While you guys all check in, I'm going to open up the beer for tonight, which is from Triton, which is a local brewery. Operation says, hi, Ryan. Hey, Aaron, I'm great. Thank you. This is from Triton Brewery. It is called the Il Pacino Mochaccino, as in Al Pacino Mochaccino. I don't think this is the beer that I drank last week. I had a problem today where I was like, crap, what beer did I open up last week? I don't think it was this one. I have had this beer recently, but that's a beautiful sound. If you wish to partake as well, and you're over the legal age in your country, feel free. Operation is reading Infinite Jest. Nice. Michael says, hoo-hoo, which I think means hello. Hello, Michael. 304 pages, Misadventures says. Jesus, look at you. I thought I was cool with 238. Tasted chocolate. Yes, it is. So this thing has, it says, say hello to our little friend, a seasonal collaboration with local coffee roasters. It's a chocolate, coffee-infused milk brown ale. To paraphrase this ale's namesake, something would be missing without the coffee. Hooah, hooah. I don't think I read that correctly. It's really good, is the short story. Everything Triton makes is amazing. Ooh, Michael, you're reading one of my favorite books. Actually, we need to talk about it today, but there's a reason I want to be reading that book again. Jack, what are you freaking out about? Jack's freaking out. Jack, have you had a chocolate beer before? These things are amazing. Ryan, have you ever been to Indie Reads? JP Fanboy, excellent question. Indie Reads is, for those of you who don't know, I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we are not known for our local bookstores. We have, by my last count, exactly 0 local for-profit bookstores. The good news is we have exactly 1 local not-for-profit bookstore, and that is a store called Indie Reads, which is a super beautiful place with lots of beautiful people inside of it, and they have a beautiful mission, which is that they sell books, both used and full price. I think there's full price books there too. I've only ever bought used ones. And what they do with the money that they make is they promote literacy in Indianapolis. They give lots of classes and stuff. They're a really awesome place. I love it. Sporadic reader, hey, she says she has to go. I promised to do my best to archive, oh my God, to archive this live stream. I'm just really technologically challenged, and I failed 2 weeks in a row, so I'm gonna do my best. Hey, Terrell. Did I say it wrong? Oh, I bet it's Terrell. Hey, Terrell. How are you doing? Tell me if I said your name right. Let's see here. The beer. Yeah, Jack, the beer is really good. Let's see here. My girlfriend Megan is in the comments again and is giving me crap about the kinds of beer that I like to drink. Megan, you're a lovely person. She doesn't like stouts and porters and says they taste like burnt coffee. And I say, of course they do. They're amazing. All right, we're going to get reading here in just a second. But we have Tarl. Tarl, did I say it right that time? Chronic Shamanic says, hey, dude, hey, Chronic, you have an amazing name. Hello, Deeran. Oh, man, we got some of the best, the repeat customers coming back. Christopher Robles says, Red Bolaño and Raymond Carver, ? First time on the live stream. Let's see. So I've not read Bolaño. Yeah, I'm a terrible person. I need to read Savage Detectives. I also probably need to read 2666. I've read a couple Carver short stories. I think that's about it. Cathedral is Carver, right? Cathedral? Yeah, that's a really good one. Let's see here. Okay, I think I'm finally caught up. So as people are still... Pumpkin spice beer, nice. As people are kind of coming into the chat. Hey man, love your videos. Normal comedy players. That is very kind of you. Thank you. As people are coming into the chat, I am going to do a little bit of warm-up reading. And I wish I would have prepared more correctly, but I wish I would have prepared more. But there are some poems from this book that I need to read to you all. The book, before I introduce it, is called Bow Down by Karen Green. And it has this nice, like, semi-transparent cover, which actually comes off. It's a hardback. It's a collection of poetry. Does anyone know what this book is? First person to guess or Google it in the chat gets a special prize. And by a prize, I mean you get a shout-out on this live stream. Does anyone know what this book is? Why it has special relevance to my channel and to a lot of you all here? Ryan, can we be friends? I'm from the Philippines and don't know anyone here who reads Infinite Jest. I have great news, Operation Zodiac. We are already friends. We're friends now. How's that feel? Normal comedy players with the correct answer, says Dave Wallace's wife's book. Correct. So when David Foster Wallace died, he was married to Karen Green, who is a visual artist and poet. And this is the book of poems that she wrote, and some art too. There's some visual art in here that she published a little bit after his death. It's kind of about the grieving process of his death. It is a really good book of poems without knowing any of that information. There are also, for those people who read a lot of David Foster Wallace, plenty of ways to read into this book that are either healthy or unhealthy, either help you grieve or don't help you grieve. You know, I read it probably 2 years ago now, and lots of grieving. But I just finished The Pale King by David Foster Wallace today, so hence the grieving, the incomplete book. I'm gonna find just 2 or 3 quick poems in here to read, and we will go on from there. So let's see. Give me just a second. Yeah, this is going to be a little sad, so sorry for... Last week we started things on a really positive note, but this week we are going to start it off on a sad note. So this one's called It's Too Hot for Words. I drive and my body knows the drive. The sky is that color. There are snakes on the freeway again, revived as Suburbans run them over. There seems to be the chance of seeing something very good or very bad at every turn. I don't call for help. I observe my hands on the wheel. I'm trying to merge here. My car gives up the ghost in the middle of the desert. Before it stalled, I was appreciating this landscape's lack of promise. Everything got simpler as I drove, and I figured out what I was still rational about. They talk about him like he's meant to be dead, and that makes me mad. That rock is a hip bone. Not everything I am or we were has to do with sorrows, hollows, and shadows. Death excites people, but from a distance. I still want to tell him stories, which is fine, which was fine, but now the sun is a friend, and I have to call for help. Oh my god, I just misread that last line. The sun is a fiend, and I have to call for help. Jack asked a really good question. Is this poetry or prose? It is prose poems. So no crazy crap. What's that word? Not indentation. Where you start a new line. I should know that word. I have a master's degree in creative writing, for goodness sake. Yeah. Oh my god, it's burning, Marsalian says. Great reference, Marsalian. Yeah, so again, what I'm reading is Bow Down by Karen Green. This is David Foster Wallace's widow. This book is about her grief process and about other stuff too. Like, it's not all about him. One of the things I love about that poem that I just read is there's this part that's in italics, which I read once already, but says, they talk about him like he's meant to be dead, and that makes me mad. That rock is a hip bone. I think she's in the desert, and she's seeing this rock, and it looks like a hip bone. Not everything I am or we were has to do with sorrows, hollows, and shadows. That's so hard to say, but yeah. It's like once somebody, in this case, once a famous writer, has spent a good chunk of their life writing about suicide, and then they commit suicide. Everything before that takes this certain kind of color, and I think she's kind of rebelling against that and saying how sad it is. So, yeah. Let's see. There's at least two more. I'm just going to read two more, I think. There's one really good one that I'm trying to find. I should have maybe bookmarked them before. Let's see here. I bookmarked every single thing else for this night, but let's see here. All right, so this is a good one. Especially, yeah, this is a hard one. So, August and the doc thinks he's already saved me, but there is more to shred. I find your crumpled corsage. I find a letter recommending calcium supplements after you broke your leg, but you never had a broken leg, nor did you have Graves' disease, a jealous wife, or a rare parasite. I laugh with you and tease you until I notice I am the designated survivor. The laws of contagion affirm that once two objects have been in contact, they continue to tease each other even after the contact is severed. I keep your deodorant, which I use sparingly. I make a slimy mustache with it before I tuck in. Last night I heard you say, I loved you very much. You called me an endearment and verbed me in the past tense. This was your first kindness from wherever you are, but the new meds won't allow gratitude. My son calls to say, happy birthday, dear old widow hag. He is so brave. Oh, man. For those of you who don't know, this is a year where I dealt with a lot of grief, and that's maybe what's making me want to read this book again. Yeah. Sorry to end this, or to start this off on such a bummer, but again, reading Karen Green poems for those of you who just got in here. That's David Foster Wallace's widow. Although she's also way more than that, and I think she would probably prefer... I should tell this story, too. So I actually saw a reading when I was in California, in San Francisco, with two poets. One was Claudia Rankine. I have her book here somewhere. Civilian is what it's called, I think. Really good book. Really amazing book. On African-American bodies in media and how they're covered, and it's really good and really hard to read. And Claudia Rankine, is really good friends with Karen Green, and so they did readings from their two books, two very brilliant writers, and they read for an hour and 45 minutes, and I think I probably would have stayed there all night if I had the chance. So that was sad. Thank you for sharing, Ryan. Yeah, both of those thoughts. Let's see here. When did your interest with David Foster Wallace start? I read a short story called Incarnations of Burned Children, which if you haven't read, maybe we'll read that on the live stream sometime. Probably when I was a sophomore in college. So that would have been 2012, 2013. So that was the first thing I'd read from him, and it just hit me like a hammer. And I was like, oh yeah, I should check out more of what this author has written. And then I did, and everything kept hitting me that way. And then I just kept reading his stuff to the point where I think we're pretty much almost through it all right now. There's Consider the Lobster I haven't read, and I think that might be it. He's got the one book on infinity, the concept of infinity, or the history of infinity, which I haven't read yet. So, okay, last poem from this book. Again, this is Bow Down by Karen Green. If you're any interest in poems or any interest in David Foster Wallace, which I know is a lot of you, this would be a good book to start with. So, a lot of these are untitled. So this one says, I worry I broke your kneecaps when I cut you down. I keep hearing that sound. We fly from the world, right? Like shrapnel angels. But why is everything so laden around here? Your legs were elegant, and you crossed them elegantly, not like a boy pretending his jewels were too big. I really love that line. There are about 3 curse words written next to that last line in my book, which I'm not going to show to you. Spoiler, they're all the F-bomb. It's 3 instances of the F-bomb because I love that line. Your legs were elegant and you crossed them elegantly, not like a boy pretending his jewels were too big. I think that, like, you hear that about a person, and I think that tells you about everything you need to know about a person. So yeah, that's the poems we read for today. That's Bow Down, spelled B-O-U-G-H, like a bough in a tree, by Karen Green. So let me catch up on some comments real quick. How we doing? Happy Monday, y'all. Let's see. Let's see here. My favorite poet is, I'm going to mispronounce this name, Masha Kaleko, and she has beautiful poems about being a widow. I just had to think of that. Anyone who knows German should check them out. Deeran, are those translated at all? Do you know? No Infinite Jest spoilers, Operation Zodiac says. Yeah, no Infinite Jest spoilers. I do have good news, Operation Zodiac, though. That is an almost unspoilable book. Like, you know some things that happen. Even if you found out what happened, the process of reading it and coming across that information in the actual book is not a process that can be spoiled. So that's good, at least. Yeah. Is it okay to give up on a book? Christopher says, back in a couple minutes ago. Sorry, I'm behind on comments. I think it's totally to give up on a book. I actually have a book that I've stopped reading recently and haven't picked it up in a couple months, and I probably won't. So yeah. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, wow. Okay, so I read Roger Federer as Religious Experience. As a 14-year-old Roger Federer fanatic, it spoke to me in so many ways. That's what first got me onto DFW. Paul says that. Yeah, so David Foster Wallace's tennis writing is very freaking good. And it's funny because actually in his... Let me transition now. So I just today finished The Pale King. I cried a whole bunch. I love what this live stream does to white pages. It's really hard to see them. There we go. I cried a lot, but then I also got to the very last page, which is the about the author, and I'm just going to read you the first sentence because I love that this is in the bio. David Foster Wallace was born in Ithaca, New York in 1962 and raised in Illinois, where he was a regionally ranked junior tennis player. I think that's such a like little slight, who cares, reference in there. He has such a like reputation as this big literary writer, and then he decides in his first sentence of the bio to be like, yeah, I was regionally ranked in tennis, junior tennis, no less. I read 200 pages today. Liber Primus says. Congratulations. That's awesome. 200 pages is no small feat. I'm going to get along to the next bit of reading here in just a second because it's a little bit longer and I want to be able to take time and stop and get to it. So stop in the middle and talk about it, I meant to say. Operation Zodiac says, hardest read for you, Ryan. Let's see here. Man, it's mostly the really dry stuff. There's a really good joke on this channel that the hardest read for me is White Trash, the book that I said that I was going to read and then I failed to make a video for like a year because that's the book that killed my YouTube channel. So I was actually supposed to read it with 2 other people on BookTube, and I feel terrible because I let them down and I committed to it and then I did not finish it. So Marx's Capital, Daniel says, yeah, that seems really difficult. I've only read excerpts, and no way. Favorite short story out of Dubliners by James Joyce? I think Snow was general all over Ireland is one of the, I think that I just said that correctly, is one of my favorite sentences in all of literature. So that partially answers your question. I also think Araby is really good. Okay, so what we're going to read today. Thank you. Jack says the same thing. It's hard to imagine any world in which Araby is not the best story in that book. Couldn't agree more. One of the people you let down was the Poptimist, right? Yes, I feel terrible for what I did to the Poptimist. The good news is he's in a good mood about it. Like, he killed my YouTube channel. He can forever put that on his resume. Let's see. English major at college is a land of spoilers. True. Okay, so I'm going to get to the next thing. Last week on the live stream, we talked about the essay of Zadie Smith's, again with the white covers, in her book Changing My Mind, which is occasional essays. I've read most of this book, but there is one essay, the very last essay, it turns out, that I have not read. And since we're on a David Foster Wallace theme today, apparently, because I finished The Pale King and I've just been obsessing over it, the title of that last essay is called Brief Interviews with Hideous Men, The Difficult Gifts of David Foster Wallace. So I'm going to read part of that to you. Maybe all of it, we'll see. I'm going to take some breaks occasionally to get beer and water. And if you have beer, feel free to join me. If you have water, then also feel free to join me. Okay, so it starts off with a long David Foster Wallace quote. That quote says, I had a teacher I liked who used to say, good fiction's job was to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. I guess a big part of serious fiction's purpose is to give the reader, who, like all of us, is sort of marooned in her own skull, to give her imaginative access to other selves. Since an ineluctable part of being a human self is suffering, part of what we humans come to art for is an experience of suffering, necessarily a vicarious experience, more like a sort of generalization of suffering. Does this make sense? We all suffer alone in the real world. True empathy is impossible. But if a piece of fiction can allow us imaginatively to identify with a character's pain, we might then also more easily conceive of others identifying with our own. This is nourishing, redemptive, we become less alone inside. It might just be that simple. But now, realize that TV and popular film and most kinds of low art, and low is in quotations, air quotations, which just means art whose primary aim is to make money, is lucrative precisely because it recognizes that audiences prefer 100% pleasure to the reality that tends to be 49% pleasure and 51% pain. Whereas serious art, again in quotations, which is not primarily about getting money out of you, is more apt to make you uncomfortable or to force you to work hard to access its pleasures, the same way that in real life true pleasure is usually a byproduct of hard work and discomfort. So it's hard for an art audience, especially a young one that's been raised to expect art to be 100% pleasurable and to make that pleasure effortless, to read and appreciate serious fiction. That's not good. The problem isn't that today's readership is dumb, I don't think. Just that TV and the commercial art cultures trained it to be sort of lazy and childish in its expectations. But it makes trying to engage today's readers both imaginatively and intellectually unprecedentedly hard. Wow, say that sentence a whole bunch of times. Okay, so again, that's a David Foster Wallace quote. Also, shout out to all of you in Europe for hanging out with me. I'm going to try and read the comments occasionally in the middle of this so I don't get here 30 minutes in and have missed all of these comments. If you're in Europe right now and you're staying up past midnight or 1 a.m., you're my hero. Don't sacrifice too much sleep for me, though. Okay. Oh, crap. Wrong button. This chapter is called Difficult Gifts. David Foster Wallace was clever about gifts, our inability to give freely or to accept what is freely given. A farmer can't give away an old tiller for free. He has to charge $5 before someone will come and take it. A depressed person wants to receive attention, but can't bring herself to give it. Normal social relations are only preserved because, quote, one never knew after all, now did one, now did one, now did one, which is from his super short story called I don't remember. It's a really short story though, and it's super good. In these stories, the act of giving is in crisis. The logic of the market seeps into every aspect of life. These tales are found in Brief Interviews with Hideous Men, a collection that was itself the response to two enormous gifts. The first was practical, the awarding of the MacArthur. MacArthur Fellow Program gives a grant. There's a footnote, I'm not going to read it. A gift on that scale frees a writer from the harsh logic of the literary market, and maybe also from that bind Wallace himself defined as post-industrial, the need to be always liked. The second gift was more difficult. It was Wallace's own talent, the bedrock of which was a formidable intellect. That he ended up a fiction writer at all speaks to the radical way Wallace saw his own gifts. Not as a natural response to be exploited, but as a suspicious facility to be interrogated. Certainly that unusual triune skill set, encyclopedic knowledge, mathematical prowess, complex dialectical thought, would have had an easier passage to approval within the academic world from which he hailed than in the literary world he joined. Instead, in his 20s, Wallace chose the path of most resistance. He turned from a career in math and philosophy to pursue a vocation in what he called, quote, morally passionate, passionately moral fiction. For the next 20 years, the two sides of that chiasmus would be in constant tension. On the one side, his writing sought the emotive force of fiction. On the other, its formal, philosophical possibilities. These elements attracted him equally, but his virtuosity and his training was in the latter, and there was always the risk that the philosophy would overwhelm the passion. But Wallace was clever enough to realize that cleverness alone wasn't enough. I'll catch myself thinking up gags and trying formal stunt pilotry, he said, and see that none of this stuff is really in the service of the story itself. It's serving the rather darker purpose of communicating to the reader, hey, look at me, have a look at what a good writer I am, like me, end quote. He battled to share his gifts rather than simply display them, seeming to seek the solution in a principle of self-mortification. What do you do with a great gift? You give it away. And then there's a quote from him that's rather long, and I'm going to read it. I've gotten convinced that there's something kind of timelessly vital and sacred about good writing. This thing doesn't have that much to do with talent, even glittering talent. Talent's just an instrument. It's like having a pen that works instead of one that doesn't. I'm not saying I'm able to work consistently out of the premise, but it seems like the big distinction between good art and so-so art lies somewhere in the art's heart's purpose. He loves those exclamation points. Oh my God. In the art's heart's purpose. The agenda of the consciousness behind the text. It's got something to do with love, with having the discipline to talk out of the part of yourself that can love instead of the part that just wants to be loved. I know this doesn't sound hip at all, but it seems like one of the things really great fiction writers do, from Carver to Chekhov to Flannery O'Connor, or like the Tolstoy of The Death of Ivan Ilyich, or the Pynchon of Gravity's Rainbow, is give the reader something. The reader walks away from the real art heavier than she came to it, fuller. All the attention and engagement and work you need to get from the reader can't be for your benefit. It's got to be for hers. What's poisonous about the cultural environment today is that it makes this so scary to try and carry out. When Wallace wrote that he offered everything he had to his readers, including the kitchen sink. When Wallace wrote he offered everything he had to his readers, including the kitchen sink. His cultish fans were always ready and willing to come away from his work a little heavier. It was his complexity that they loved. For many of us, though, what Wallace had to give looked simply too heavy, too much like hard work. And while Brief Interviews had its passionate defenders, I remember that the pair of reviews it received in the New York Times were bad in both senses, opening with paragraphs of nervous ridicule. The paragraphs read, 1. How to describe David Foster Wallace's new collection of stories. You might say it's like being a therapist and being forced to listen to one narcissistic patient after the next prattle on and on about their neuroses and their explanations for those neuroses and the rationalizations behind the explanations for those neuroses. Or you might say it's like being locked in a room with a bunch of speed freaks babbling to themselves nonstop on a benzodrine-fueled high as they clip their toenails or cut the split ends of their hair. Number 2. You know the old story about how if you set a billion monkeys to work on a billion typewriters, one of them would eventually compose the complete works of Shakespeare? David Foster Wallace often writes the way I imagine that billionth monkey would in mad cadenzas of simian gibberish that break suddenly into glorious soliloquies, then plunge again into nonsense. I'm gonna take a break real quick there and get some water, read some comments. Oh, I've got the burps tonight. It's a problem. Glad I could stop in, enjoy the rest of the live stream. See you guys. Hope you can archive this for later. I'm gonna do my best, Aaron. And in the beginning, let's see here. Let's see. Oh, hey, GS Boss. Hope it's going well. I have read Stoner by John Williams. That's John Williams, right? I have read Stoner. It's a really good book. I should reread it. Okay. Oh yeah, one of you guys mentioned that name of that short story. There we go. A radically condensed history of post-industrial life. Thank you. It's so good. It's very quick. Oh man. Okay, so back to the essay. Yep, back to the essay. Perhaps it was easy when you read Wallace to distrust the agenda of the consciousness behind the text. Did he truly want to give you a gift, or only to demonstrate his own? For why should we be expected to tease out references to De Chirico and logotherapy, or know what happens during an eclipse, or what polymerase does, or the many nuances of the word prone? Why go through the pain if this is to be all we get in return? Quote, discursive portraits of relentlessly self-absorbed whiners set down in an unappetizing mix of psychobabble, scholarly jargon, and stream of consciousness riffs. End quote. It's from one of the reviews. It's my recollection that this sort of thing had become in the early noughties, aka, I love that, the early noughties, aka the early 2000s, the noughts. The common line on Wallace, especially in England. Something to say whether you'd actually read him or not. Postmodern type, ? Swallowed a dictionary, ? Bad reviews serve many purposes, not least of which is the gift of freedom. They release you from the obligation of having to read the book. At the time of writing, Brief Interviews marks its 10th anniversary, and its author is no longer with us. Now might be the time to think of the literary gift economy the other way around. To do this, we have to recognize that a difficult gift, like Brief Interviews, merits the equally difficult gift of our close attention and effort. For this reason, the newspaper review was never going to be an easy fit for Wallace. He can't be read and understood and enjoyed at that speed any more than I can get the hang of the Goldberg variations over a weekend. His reader needs to think of herself as a musician, spreading the sheet music, the gift of the work, over the music stand, electing to play. First there is practice, then competency at the instrument, then spending time with the sheet music, then playing it over and over. Of course, the arguments that might be employed with regards to reading in this way are deeply unreasonable, entirely experiential, and impossible to objectively defend. In the end, all that can be said is that the difficult gift is its own defense. Difficult gift is its own defense. I like that a lot. The deep, rewarding pleasure of which is something you can only know by undergoing it. To appreciate Wallace, you need to really need him, and then you need to really... Oh my god, I am reading really terrible. To appreciate Wallace, you need to really read him, and then to really reread him. For this reason, among many others, he was my favorite living writer, and I wrote this piece to remember him by, which, in my case, is best done by reading him once again. Chapter 1. Breaking the rhythm that excludes thinking. The story Forever Overhead is Brief Interviews at its most open, and for many readers, its most beautiful. Wallace disliked it, thinking it juvenilia. Maybe it was its very openness he suspected. So many of the dense themes of the book are here laid out with an unexpected directness. At first glance, it's simple. A boy on his 13th birthday in an old public pool on the western edge of Tucson, resolving to try the diving tank for the first time. The voice is as blank as a video game, as an instruction manual, and yet, within it, Wallace finds something tender. Get out now and go past your parents, who are sunning and reading, not looking up. Forget your towel. Stopping for the towel means talking, and talking means thinking. You have decided being scared is caused mostly by thinking. Go right by, toward the tank at the deep end. To this, he then adds a layer of complication, a sparsely punctuated synesthetic compression, like a painter placing another shade atop its base. A remembered wet dream does not yet know its own name. It is spasms of a deep, sweet hurt. The pool is 5 o'clock warm, its distinctive odor, a flower with chemical petals. The noise of the radio overhead is jangle flat and tinny thin, and a dive is a white that plumes and falls, until once more, blue clean comes up in the middle of the white. Throughout, the expected verb is the verb, is generally omitted. Sensations present themselves directly on the page, as they present themselves to the boy. The unmediated sensory overload of puberty overlaps here with a dream of language, that words might become things, that there would exist no false gap between the verbal representation of something and the something itself. I really freaking love that short story, by the way, Forever Overhead. If you have not read it, it's a really good place to start. Oh man, it's really good. And she's doing a really good job explaining it. It's so sensory. Okay, then with the base coat down and the wash laid on top comes another layer. Concrete details so finely rendered, they seem to have been drawn from the well of your own memories. Your sister's swim cap with the raised rubber flowers, limp old pink petals, and the thin, cruel hint of very dark Pepsi in paper cups. That snack bar with the letter A missing, and the concrete deck, rough and hot against your bleached feet. Isn't everything just as you remember it? The big lady in front of you is on the ladder. Her suit is full of her. The backs of her thighs are squeezed by the suit and look like cheese. The legs have abrupt little squiggles of cold blue shattered vein under the white skin. Then there's the ladder itself. The rungs are very thin. It's unexpected. Thin, round iron rungs laced in slick, wet safety felt. And now, fueled by nostalgia, by the pressing in of times past, the concrete seems to mix with the existential. Each of your footprints is thinner and thinner and fainter. Each shrinks behind you on the hot stone and disappears. And again, on that ladder, you have real weight. The ground wants you back. I love that line. Have you been in this terrible queue? Haven't you been in this terrible queue? Aren't you in it now? A queue from which there is no exit, in which everyone looks bored and seems by himself, in which all dive freely and yet have no real freedom, for it is a machine that moves only forward? The difference is awareness. This is always the difference with awareness, she says, in Wallace, and I think I agree. The boy seems to see clearly what we, all these years ago, felt only faintly. He sees that the pool is a system of movement in which all experience is systematized. Quote, there is a rhythm to it, like breathing, like a machine, and into which, as the woman in front of him dives, he must now insert himself. Okay, long block quote here. Listen, it does not seem good the way she disappears into a time that passes before she sounds, like a stone down a well, but you think she did not think so. She was part of a rhythm that excludes thinking, and now you have made yourself part of it too. The rhythm seems blind, like ants, like a machine. You decide this needs to be thought about. It may, after all, be all right to do something scary without thinking, but not when the scariness is the not thinking itself. Not when not thinking turns out to be wrong. At some point, the wrongnesses have piled up behind. Pretend boredom, weight, thin rungs, hurt feet, space cut into laddered parts that melt together only in a disappearance that takes time. The wind on the ladder, not what anyone would have expected. The way the board protrudes from shadow into light and you can't see past the end. When it all turns out to be different, you should get to think. It should be required. Okay, gonna take a break right there. Whew. How we doing? I hope this is enjoyable. Sorry, I have to struggle over the words a little bit sometimes. My girlfriend has sent me something that I cannot read on my computer. Megan, I will read that as soon as I can, I promise. Jack says something about there is only one good story in brief interviews, and I disagree with that. Respectfully, I disagree. Are we ever going to see any of your writing? Normal Comedy Player says. Do you want to? Like, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Do you want to? Potentially. Let's see. Talking about directors and actors. I'll get to that later, maybe. Victor says yes, he's having a good time. Good. Hope you guys are. I'm having a good time. We're 40 minutes in, and I have not drank much of my beer, so I should probably drink a little bit more. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, back to it. Now we see what the board is and feel our own predicament. Sentient beings encased in these flesh envelopes, moving always, flesh envelopes, first off. Moving always in one inexorable direction, the end of which we cannot see, bound by time. Freedom is what you do with what's been done to you, was a quote. This Sartre's dictum, as in Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist, hangs over these passive people who let their legs take them to the end before coming down, heavy on the edge of the board and making it throw them up and out, thrown into the world, condemned to be free and hideously responsible for that freedom. That's pretty much straight out of Jean-Paul Sartre, which I don't think I'm saying his name correctly. It strikes me when I reread this beautiful story how poor we are at tracing literary antecedents, how often we assume too much and miss obvious echoes. Lazily, we gather writers by nations, decades, and fashions. We imagine Wallace, the only son of DeLillo and Pynchon, guilty of that. Myself, Zadie Smith. School me, please. In fact, Wallace had Catholic tastes, and it shouldn't surprise us to find, along with Sartre, traces of Philip Larkin, a great favorite of his. Wallace's fear of automatism is acutely Larkin-esque, a style, she quotes Larkin, I'm not going to do it, as is his attention to that singular point in our lives when we realize we are closer to our end than to our beginning. When Wallace writes, "At some point there has gotten to be more line behind you than in front of you," he lends an indelible image to an existential fear, as Larkin did in, quote, "The Old Fools." The peak that stays in view wherever we go, for them is rising ground. I like that a lot, actually. Haven't read much Larkin. Then there's the title itself, Forever Overhead, a perfectly accurate description, when you think of it, of how the poems High Windows and Water, again Larkin poems, close. That mix of the concrete and the existential, of air and water, of the eternal, submerged in the banal. And boredom was the great theme of both. But in the great theme, there is a great difference. Wallace wanted to interrogate boredom as a deadly postmodern attitude, an attempt to bypass experience on the part of a people who have become habituated to a mediated reality. It seems impossible, the boy thinks, arranging his face in fake boredom to match the rest, that everybody could really be this bored. In this story, the counterweight to automatism is sensation, expressed here as human reality in its most direct and redemptive form. Your feet are hurt from the thin rungs and have a great ability to feel. It's no accident that we are in a swimming pool at fiery sunset with a high wind blowing and the ground hot enough to remind us of its solidity. The four elements are intended to work upon you. For no matter how many times this cue has formed, no matter how many people have dived before or have watched other people dive in life or on TV, this is you diving right now, and it should be thought about, and there should be a wonder in it. For Larkin, on the other hand, boredom was real. Life is first boredom, then fear. Whether or not we use it, it goes. Actually, that's really good. Life is first boredom, then fear. Whether or not we use it, it goes. And the inexorability of time made all human effort faintly ludicrous. There is some of this despair in Wallace, too. Whatever splash the divers make, the tank heals itself each time, as if each dive had never been, but much less than is popularly ascribed to him. Time has its horrors in Wallace, but it's also the thing that binds us most closely to the real and to one another. Without it, we would lose ourselves in solipsism, which, for him, was the true horror. When the boy, in a meditative state, dares to hope that no time is passing outside, he is soon proven wrong. Here's a big quote. "Hey kid, they want to know, do your plans up here involve the whole day, or what exactly is the story? Hey kid, are you okay? There's been time this whole time. You can't kill time with your heart. Everything takes time. Bees have to move very fast to stay still." Oh. All right, gonna take just a break. Read some comments real quick. Somebody asked what we're reading. We are reading Changing My Mind by Zadie Smith, occasional essays, including her essay on Brief Interviews with Hideous Men by David Foster Wallace. Let's see here. So I'll be honest, I have not read what we're talking about with allegations to David Foster Wallace. I'm attempting to read comments real quick so that I can have some understanding of what we're talking about. See ya, Operation Zodiac. Thanks for hanging out. Come back some other time. We'll do this on Mondays again. Let's see. High Windows is one of my favorite poems. It says normal comedy players. Good to know. I should read that thing. It sounds good. Let's see here. I don't get this. Too much thinking, not enough doing. Oh, in the book? Yeah. I mean, in that story, time basically stops, despite time not stopping, what it just talked about. So let's see here. Yeah, so about the allegations real quick, because I should say something. I really don't know. I haven't read, apparently, what we're talking about. So if anyone wants to send me stuff, I'd be more than happy to read it. And or I'll Google it after this. I also cannot Google because I'm using my 2 devices to run this live stream. So the other thing we can do I don't know if it would be productive or not. If people think it would be productive, we could, have read the same material and come together sometime and talk about it. So I don't know. Allegations make me sad, as allegations should for most people, because we want people to be good people. Not to harp on this too much, but yeah. Okay, I'm going to keep reading, and I will keep checking back on comments. All right. I'm not going to finish this entire essay, by the way, because it is long. Maybe we will come back to it another time, but Lord, it is long. Maybe I will also just give you a taste of it. Hey, Matt Miller, welcome to the live stream. We're reading Zadie Smith, one of her essays from a book called Changing My Mind. Okay, let's see here. Yet this is not experienced as a negative revelation, aka the fact that time continues moving no matter what. See you, misadventures, by the way. Yet this is not experienced as a negative revelation. Indeed, the greatness of Wallace's story lies in its indeterminacy, for the boy never quite resolves which part of his experience is the real one, the hardware of the world or the software of his consciousness. I really like how she put that. God, that's good. Quote, so which is the lie, hard or soft, silence or time? The lie is that it's one or the other. A still floating bee is moving faster than it can think. From overhead, the sweetness drives it crazy. What is he jumping into in the end? Is the tank death, experience, manhood, a baptism, the beginning, the end? Whatever it is, the boy is able to approach it without dread. He pauses to examine the 2 vague black ovals at the end of the board, over which his literary creator has taken so much wonderful care. And then there's a long quote. Let's see. From all the people who have gone before, your feet as you stand here are tender and dented, hurt by the rough, wet surface, and you see that the 2 dark spots are from people's skin. They are skin abraded from feet by the violence of the disappearance of people with real weight. More people than you can count without losing track. The weight and abrasion of their disappearance leaves little bits of soft, tender feet behind, bits and shard and curls of skin that dirty and darken and tan as they lie tiny and smeared in the sun at the end of the board. How's that for, I hope you have eaten dinner already. But this examination does not result in paralysis. He still dives. Where Larkin was transfixed by the accumulation of human futility, Wallace was as interested in communication as he was in finitude. The last word of the story, as the boy dives, is hello. He was, in the broadest sense, a moralist. What mattered to him most was not the end, but the quality of our communal human experience before the end, while we're still here. What passes between us is that cue before we dive. I really like that point a lot, actually. I do think a lot of times attributed to DFW is this like focus on the death part of the equation, whereas I think he is definitely a moralist. I think he's one of the bigger modern day moralists. All right, let's see here. Okay, gonna take a break. We're talking about all kinds of stuff in the comments. Okay, we're talking about good versus bad versus gray. I have a link here to click on. I'm gonna just put this aside for a second so we can talk about it. Okay, I don't have time to read stuff on screen that I have not already picked out. So I get to do that super fun thing, which is talk about something you're not an expert at. So first things first, not an expert at what we're talking about. Haven't even read the thing that it is that we are discussing. Gonna acknowledge my ignorance first there, and also acknowledge my privilege here, which is that I'm a white dude attempting to talk about allegations against another white dude against women. So first off, lots of privilege and confusion there. We're talking in general about whether or not these allegations are true or not, which is fun. Believe victims is my stance on that. Honestly, Ryan, I don't think you should have to make a statement right now if you don't want to. Yeah, I mean, to be real clear, I'm not trying to make a statement here about whether or not he was a good person or whether or not this stuff is true. It's not my place, or really, I don't have that ability. So that's fun. Yeah. Okay. Don't really see enough in the comments to be able to talk about it very much. How are we doing out there? Are we enjoying the reading of the Zadie Smith? Are we not enjoying the reading of the Zadie Smith? Would we rather move on to something else? How are we feeling? Is anybody else drinking beer out there tonight? It's great, the Zadie Smith. That's good. It's a little dense, but she's basically close reading a short story. So before she moves on to close reading other stuff. Yeah. Hey Sadie, how's it going? Enjoying the Zadie Smith, Paul says. Let's see here. Megan is drinking wine, girlfriend is drinking wine. Alike is not drinking beer, sad face. To be clear, it's also fine to not be drinking any beer. Let's see. Okay. So, if it's cool with you, I have one page until the end of this little section of this essay. So I'm going to read that, and then we'll move on to something else. I have one more thing lined up after this, so maybe we'll do questions for a little bit and then go from there. My girlfriend is apparently going to tell you all a secret in the comments. So, you pay attention. He doesn't like popcorn. She's right. I don't like popcorn. A is new here, and their screen name is just A. Their username is just A. Hello, A. How are you? Let's see here. Sadie saw Zadie Smith talk in April. Yeah, she's really good. I saw her speak 2 years ago at Davis. Yeah, she's freaking brilliant. Sadie, have you read NW? Has anyone else read NW, her book? I actually just bought my girlfriend one of her books for a holiday recently. I don't remember which one it was. All right, you guys all apparently hate me because I don't love popcorn. So it's cool, guys. I'm going to go ahead and read this. So let's see here. In 2005, Wallace gave a commencement speech at Kenyon College that begins this way. I'm sure lots of you have heard of it. There are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?" And the commencement speech ends like this. The capital T truth is about life before death. It is about the real value of a real education, which has almost nothing to do with knowledge and everything to do with simple awareness. Awareness of what is so real and essential, so hidden in plain sight all around us all the time, that we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over, this is water. This is water. It is unimaginably hard to do this, to stay conscious and alive in the adult world day in and day out. This short piece appeared in many newspapers when he died and has recently been repackaged as a chicken soup for the soul style toilet book, sentences artificially separated from one another and left, like Zen koans, alone on the page, to be sold next to the cash register. She's really snarky, Zadie Smith, in a good way. If you believe the publicity flack, it is here that Wallace attempted to collect all he believed about life, human nature, and lasting fulfillment into a brief talk. Hard to think of a less appropriate portrait of this writer than as the dispenser of convenient pearls of wisdom placed in your palm so that you needn't go through any struggle yourself. Wallace, was the opposite of an aphorist, aka Oscar Wilde. And the real worth of that speech, which he never published, which existed only as a transcript on the internet, is as a diving board into his fiction being his truest response to the difficulty of staying conscious and alive day in and day out. I don't know why I ever try and have any thoughts on literature ever, because Zadie Smith is better at it than me. The ends of great fiction do not change much, but the means do. 100 years earlier, another great American writer, Henry James, wanted his readers, quote, finally aware so as to become richly responsible. His syntactically tortuous sentences, like Wallace's, are intended to make you aware, to break the rhythm that excludes thinking. Wallace was from that same tradition, but 100 years on, the ante had been raised. In 1999, it felt harder to be alive and conscious than ever. Brief Interviews pitched itself as a counterweight to the narcotic qualities of contemporary life, not temporary life. Ooh, that's a bad Freudian slip. And then went a step further. It questioned the Jamesian notion that fine awareness leads a priori to responsibility. It suggested that too much awareness, particularly self-awareness, has allowed us to be less responsible than ever. It was meant for readers of my generation, born under the star of 4 interlocking revolutions, undreamed of in James's philosophy: the ubiquity of television, the voraciousness of late capitalism, the triumph of therapeutic discourse, and philosophy's demotion into a branch of linguistics. How to be finely aware when you are trained in passivity. How to detect real value when everything has its price. How to be responsible when you are, by definition, always the child victim. How to be in the world when the world has collapsed into language. Okay. Whew. That was the first 12 pages of Zadie Smith's Changing My Mind. I also said that I would do a thing, which is that if you're hanging out for the live stream and you're participating in the Hunt for Red October, you are giving up some of your reading time to come watch me read. So what I'm going to do, the very least I can do for you, is tell you how many pages that I'm reading, so that if you so wish, you can count my pages of reading towards your pages of reading. That was 12 pages. We read exactly 3 pages of Bow Down by Karen Green earlier. We've got a short story to read here in a little bit. So, Zadie Smith is brilliant. Yeah, very good. Oh, apparently my girlfriend is gonna dump me because I don't like popcorn. Sweet. Sadie has not read In W. Sadie, I'm gonna put you on blast right now. You should read In W. It's totally worth it. It's good. If you don't have time for it, that's cool too. Jack Clare makes an excellent point about popcorn's dryness and how it has a not very pleasant mouthfeel, and I could not agree more. Let's see here. Let's see. Sadie says, I feel you, Ryan, every single damn day about the I don't know why I try to have any thoughts on literature ever. Yeah. You know the irony, the extreme irony of having a live stream about literature is that I think I don't know why I have a YouTube channel. I think that I am smarter and kinder and more humble and less egotistical when I have more time to sit behind the page and rethink all of my thoughts and put them through this little like sieve in my brain, in my head, before presenting them to the public. And so what I have decided to do with my life is to create a YouTube channel where I talk straight to the camera and don't ever get to sieve anything. It's super great and I'm super comfortable with it. Let's see here. Deeran says, honestly, I regret every minute of my day. I don't try to have any thoughts on literature. That's fair. Victor wants to check out his short stories. I say that you should. If you do, maybe do Oblivion first. I like Oblivion a lot. Got NW or White Teeth first. I'm a big fan of reading White Teeth because White Teeth is super great. She wrote it when she was like 19 or 20 is when she started writing it. She sold it when she was like 22, I think, 21. I'm gonna get the dates all wrong. The great thing about that book is that it makes a lot of youthful mistakes. It is also incredible writing. It's got a lot of energy in it. So if you're a young person or a new writer, either one of those things, or you have at any point in time in your life been one of those people, then I think that's a great one to start with. Apparently Sadie cannot spell today. Sadie, for shame. Just kidding. You're the best. Have you ever read any essays by William Gass? I don't think so. Tell me more about William H. Gass. I don't, that sounds really familiar, but I don't think so. Favorite teen novel. Okay, so a fellow Indianapolis resident, John Green, has written some really good ones. I know that he's super popular and therefore it is sometimes super popular to not like his books. However, I would submit that the depth of feeling I had while reading Looking for Alaska is maybe the deepest depth of feeling I have ever had while reading a book. How's that? It's not a very long book, but I did throw it across the freaking room and cry, and then I had to pick it back up and continue reading because it was really good. Never had any interest in White Teeth until now. Victor, I feel bad because I'm just giving you a whole bunch of stuff to read. That's the problem. I'm just giving you more and more to read. But Deeran says, no, all caps, no, Ryan, Looking for Alaska is the worst. Okay, cite your sources, Deeran. I'm ready to hear them. I have a really good argument with a friend that it's actually the best, even though he calls it the worst too. The Tunnel by Gass, William H. Gass. That doesn't strike a bell. I don't know, maybe I've just read about him and not read him, which tends to be the case. Holy crap, we've been going for an hour already. Where does the time go? I need to finish this beer. Any favorite classics? You know, which is a really weird book for me to love. Oh my god, is this still working? Please tell me this is still working. My phone just freaked out real quick. Sorry, I have to do something real quick. Oh no, I have to send a text message. Did my live stream mess up for a second there? I've been so bad with the live stream stuff. Give me 2 seconds. Tell me if it messed up. Okay, so it must have pooped out for a second there. I'm the worst at technology. Thanks for putting up with me. Apparently, when I try and get a phone call, it messes up the stream. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. We're back. I don't know what to do. I don't have a good enough computer to stream from my computer. This is just a technology rant for a second. Thanks for being interested at all. I don't have a good enough computer to stream from my computer. I don't have a webcam. All I have is my phone. So I use my phone. It's what I film all of my videos on. Would airplane mode work to still stream but not get phone calls? Because I just got a phone call and that's what interrupted the stream and I had to panic and exit out real quick. Do you think that would work? Those of you who knows? I just put it on airplane mode. We'll see if that works. Crossing fingers. Crossing fingers. I don't even remember where I was. Drinking this beer. That's what I was doing. Okay. Where were we again? Have you read The Death of Ivan Illich? I don't know how to say that name. Yes, I have. Marsalian. We actually talked about it last week. I have read it. I thought that it was, I think we were talking about Chekhov at that point, and I thought that it was Chekhov, but it's actually Tolstoy. So I have read it. I just never remember the writer. Let's see here. Do you get your books at a local bookstore or online? So Dylan, this is the problem with trying to own a lot of books. It costs a lot of money. When I'm really excited about, I try and tell all the people I know this too, because it's a really good way to support the writers that you love and to save yourself money when you can. When a book is about to come out that you are really interested in, or it's by a writer that you really love, do your best to pre-order it, and pre-order it through a physical bookstore, hopefully a local bookstore. We have a really good one in Indianapolis that I've talked about before called Indie Reads. They're amazing. If you can, pre-order through the bookstore. It gives them your business. It shows the author and the author's publicist that the book already has traction, and therefore they will print more of them and hopefully therefore sell more of them. It's this whole momentum game. That said, when it's a book that's been out for 40 years, when it's a book that is so widely read, you can find a used copy at Goodwill. Feel free to buy your $1 copy at Goodwill. It's for those, like, for me at least, and this is just my opinion, it's for those like borderline cases where, for instance, I recently read a book by Hank Green. It was his first book. It just came out, and I wanted to show Hank Green and his publicists that I care about Hank Green's ability to publish books. And so therefore I pre-ordered it, and I pre-ordered it through my local bookstore. I realize I'm probably going into way too much detail right now. But the other day I bought, it's actually right over here, the next book I'm going to read, because a friend is challenging me to read it, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. This book there's like millions of this book in print. In fact, this copy is one of those really cheap mass market paperbacks where you can't even really open the book wide enough to get at the text in the middle of the book. This thing was made for probably 50 cents, and so I do not feel guilty buying it on Amazon, getting it directly delivered to me, and paying like $4 for it. Sorry, Viktor Frankl. I believe in your writing. It just is less important for me to support you and your publicist. So that's my take. I know I just ranted for too long on that. A like says, that book right there, that book. Don't worry, like, it's going to be the book I'm talking about way too much here very soon. Dostoevsky is the greatest, and anyone who disagrees is wrong. I have Crime and Punishment is Dostoevsky, right? I have it on my bookshelf of my to-be-read pile. I have not yet read it. Volman, and what did you think? Victor, I have not read Volman. Do you have a suggestion? I would love to read Volman. Do you read any plays? I love to read plays, and actually, this just sounds like humble bragging, and so I probably shouldn't go there. I wrote a play last year, a one-act play. The poster is over there, which is what I was looking at. I read a lot of plays in preparation for that. I'm trying to think what are some really good ones. Let's see here. Crap, what's the one, the original play, it's like a Czech play. Oh my god. Universal Robots, the first play that ever mentions the word robot. I just read that recently. Tennessee Williams, Sadie says, thank God for Sadie. She's saving the day here. I love Tennessee Williams. So Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Glass Menagerie. I just saw Glass Menagerie, a production of it a couple months ago that ripped my heart out. Somebody said Samuel Beckett. Endgame was the first play that I saw, like, as an adult. I saw a production of Endgame, and it is why I love the type of stuff that I love, I'm convinced. Let's see here. Shakespeare and Dickens are better than Dostoevsky, but he is definitely not very far behind them. That sentence, Jack, I respect you. That sentence came out with so much history and like, you say that like as if you know for sure, and I don't think we can know for sure. Like, who? First off, yeah, it's so subjective. Like, Shakespeare. Who's going to argue that Shakespeare isn't the greatest of all time ever? Who's going to argue that Dostoevsky is worse than Dickens or that Dickens is better. I don't know that there's better or worse. I don't know that there's better and worse, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Notes from the Underground. It's been on my list for a long time. I need to read it. Eugene O'Neill. Sorry, Jack, I just missed your comment about that. I don't think so. Eugene O'Neill. Don't think so. Let's see here. Chuck Palahniuk. I did read Fight Club. I've read another book of his that I don't remember. He's good. He's very just like, if you expect that with every next page you are going to be surprised in a scary way, and not in a like the phone call is coming from inside the house scary, but a like, oh my god, this is happening on the page, somebody wrote about this kind of way, then it becomes a little less exciting. Like his language is good, his sentences are good, but it's not like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. He's super interesting and like kind of like rebellious, but let's see. Jack dropping all the wrong opinions tonight. Jack, say as many opinions as you want. I'm just teasing you. I'm happy that you're here. A Long Day's Journey into the Night. No, I think I read a section of that once. Like an excerpt. The Royal Family by Volman. God, this is why I need to just write down notes of what is... Jack also said, Jack. He said, Beckett is the most horrendously boring playwright I've ever read. Jack. No, Jack. I write plays too. Normal Comedy Player says, normal comedy players. What type of... Also, is it all right that that I call you by your whole name every time? What kind of plays do you write? Iceman cometh. Average distance and pace for running. Sorry, Nick. I saw this question earlier and I never got a chance to talk about it. Let's talk about running for a second. Yeah. That has changed a lot over the years. So right now, last week, for instance, I'm coming back from injury, and so this is a very not great answer. But last week, I ran 30 total miles, and I ran at like 8:50 total pace, average. So that is both a lot fewer miles than I've run in past years. It's also a lot slower miles than I've run in past years. It is also faster and more miles than I ran the week before. It's also relative, man. It's like, at this point, I've been running for 16 years, and you like to think of it as this linear thing, right? Like you get faster as you get older up to a certain point, and then you get slower. You go longer up to a certain point, and then you maybe go down in length. That's not really the case. So it's so individual, and it changes year to year. Actually, okay, crazy running story. Give me 2 seconds to drink some of this beer. And text my girlfriend back because she is apparently in the chat but also texting me. Hi, Megan. I love you. Okay, so crazy story. Right now, this weekend, there is a race going on. And I can't even check the results right now because I'm using both of my devices to live stream. But you better believe over the last 48 hours, I have, over the last 55 hours, I have repeatedly refreshed. For those of you who have seen, there was this Netflix documentary called Barkley Marathons, the race that eats its young on Netflix. It's about this crazy backwoods race that happens in Tennessee. I'm going to try and make this very quick because I know I can ramble about running. It's this crazy backwoods race that happens in Tennessee. There is a race, even crazier, put on by the exact same person. His name is Lazarus Lake. It happens in his backyard in Tennessee. It is a 4.1666 mile loop on trails in his backyard. And it is a 4.16666 mile race. At the starting gun, there are 70 people. They start the race. They have 1 hour to complete the loop. When they finish the loop, they then have however much time before the next hour starts to go get food, rest, whatever. And then at the next hour, if they want to continue, they must be in that starting corral. So they have 1 hour, they run. At the start of the next hour, they run again. It is a last man standing race, or last woman standing, as we may see this year. Last year, like 60 people lined up, however many it was. At 140 miles, there were 3 people left, still running loops every single hour on the hour. At 200, there were 2 people left, and 2 people ran for 2.5 straight days. And at like 250 miles, finally, one of them had to stop. Finally, that person wins in like 250 miles. This year, A lot more people show up. Some really good people show up, including one absolutely badass woman runner. Her name is Courtney DeWalter. She's from Colorado. She's amazing. They show up this year. At 200 miles this year, there were 5 people still running. Right now, as of the filming of this live stream, right before I went live, there were 3 people still running, and they had gone like 250 miles. So they had run for 2.5 straight days. The reason it's 4.166666 miles is that means every single 24 hours, you have completed 100 miles, and then you do it again. They've gone 2.5 days. It's freaking bonkers. Like Sadie says, I love your enthusiasm. It's infectious. It's something. It's something. Infectious. I'm glad you like it. Just my, it's something. Yeah, like I like to think of myself as a really long distance runner. I've run 50 miles 2 times in my life. I'm really proud of that fact. There are people out in some backyard in Tennessee right now who are running 5 times that distance without sleeping, with no more than 10 minutes at a time to sit down and eat or to nap. And they are continuing on into the night right now. This is their 3rd night. They're going into their 3rd night right now. I'm gonna cry. This is something. Isn't all that running dangerous? That's a whole debate. We should get on that another time. So, I mean, yeah, well, that's a whole nother conversation. I'm not even trying to be edgy. I genuinely find it funny. Oh, that's a comment that I don't understand. I find the idea of government banning a novel hilarious. Okay, that is kind of funny, actually. Let's see. Whoa, Normal Comedy Players is doing their MA in drama school at the moment, training to be a director. That is awesome. What should I call you if I don't have to say the whole name? Should I say Normal? I'm going to call you Normal. You're Normal, okay? Normal is doing an MA in drama right now, trying to be a director. That's awesome. Jack says, I'm not in America. I'm in the land of permits, which is Britain. Nick ran 5 miles today. If you have a beer or wine, drink one for Nick. He deserves it. Let's see here. How do they not die? Deeran says, I have no idea how they don't die. I don't know. It's such a stupid sport. Ultra running is the stupidest of all sports. Oh my God, I'm the worst here. I'm so bad with technology. Normal sounds good. Yeah, you're normal. All right. Let's see here. How are we doing out there? We are at almost 80 minutes in. I'm a little loath to keep this live stream going forever because that tends to be how my phone freaks out. Last time we got to the last 2 minutes and then my phone pooped out on me. So I'm hoping that we can do this last little bit of reading here in a second. I'm really enjoying this, so I don't want to put a cap on it, but I also don't want to test my luck with this freaking phone. Let's see here. So we had good numbers today too. I think this is the most people who ever showed up to the live stream. Cheers. By the way, this is the reader feedback part of the audience feedback part of the night. So give me some feedback, honest and direct feedback, because I would more appreciate honest feedback than I would you stroking my ego. Give me honest feedback on what you think we should do during live streams, what works, what doesn't. Do I spend too much time reading comments? Is there too much reading? What do you think? Wow, somebody has a really good eye. Let's see here. Shelly seconds Alexis's comment, but I can't find Alexis's comment. So let's see. Halvard, which I think I just said your name wrong again. Halvard says, is this book, Wabash on My Mind, the play that I wrote? It is not. So that is kind of a history book about the college that I went to, Wabash College. It is not. I did read it at the exact same time that I was writing the play, though. The play I wrote was called Another Thing Coming. So, organize that dang shelf once and for all. Agreed? Our short story Saturday is coming back. I hope to, as soon as October is over and I have more stuff to make. So, other feedback, feel free to hit me with it. What do we... Megan said, my girlfriend says there are too many white guys. Yeah, guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. Charged. Reading works well, especially if the videos are archived. People can watch it later if they can't follow live. Sporadic. I'm really praying that this one gets archived. Deerin says that Megan is correct. She is always correct. Yeah, I agree. I think the format lends itself to reading smaller snippets and highlights like you do. Okay. I also just feel awkward reading anything longer than like 20 minutes. So I tried to shorten up the sections this time so that I could read more comments in between and not let them backlog for like 30 minutes. Paul Martin is headed out of here. Ryan, gotta go get some sleep. It's getting late here. Thanks for the stream. See you next week. See you next week, Paul. Thanks for coming in. Are the 3-part book reviews coming back? Christopher, I'm really hoping so. Right now I have to find the time for it. Maybe some flash fiction might work. I have great news for you, Normal. The short story that we're reading here is 2 pages long here in just a second. Will you do a full book review video for The Pale King? No, I have not said something about it already, Shimmy. I will be doing that. I don't know when. I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks. Yeah. So you guys do want me to go for the organizing my books. Okay, I'm going to do it. You guys are going to see my butt a lot, which is the problem, because there's no way for me to do it without showing you a lot of my rear end. So you're getting what you asked for. Be nice to choose the short stories, poems thematically, e.g. from a specific genre / author, etc. A panel format would be cool occasionally. I was thinking about that the other day, Blind, Zampano. Again, I have to figure out the technology part of that. I could get somebody to Skype in and do some stuff like that. I'm really interested in that. I think having another person here would also take some of the weight off my shoulders in terms of being interesting. Do you like the way that I interestingly said being interesting? Short stories, some Q&A, some poems equal perfect live stream. Cool. Good. Does it feel bad that we didn't get all the way through that Zadie Smith thing? If I'd have kept writing it, we'd have been here for like 3 hours, but I actually thought it was super interesting, so. Jack wants to see me vlog more. I'm kind of thinking I will, Jack. It's easier for me in terms of like stress load. I like it. Alexis says my shelves have character. That's very kind of you. I don't know that they do. That's one way to say that I'm lazy. Like hearing your thoughts on books. I normally read a lot more fantasy or mystery, so your taste is different and neat to hear about. Cool. I like hearing that, Matt. Do you have any good fantasy recommendations for me? Or mystery? Because I like that stuff. I just don't get good recommendations on it. I get so many literary recommendations, which I love. Thank you all for doing that. Just don't get any good fantasy or mystery recommendations. Ryan Moore asked me, bruh, I'm late. For real, how was The Pale King? I'm going to do a whole video on it, but it was really good. I understand now, even like 50 pages before the end, I understood, or I was feeling like, wow, this is some of the best writing I think he's ever written. This is some of the more mature stuff. Really, really a big fan. And I just kept wondering why people kept saying like, hey, you know, it's such a bummer how unfinished it feels. I was like, this feels really like pretty far along. And then you get to the last 50 pages and you're like, oh no, all of these threads are going to fall and not be connected together. And that is hard to, and that's hard to kind of put up with. There's a whole bunch, I will let you in on this. At the very end of the book, there's like 3 to 4 pages, which are basically his notes on how to finish the book or what to do in the future, moving forward on the book. And that is really sad to read because you kind of wonder what the book would be like then if it got done. I still think one of the best pieces of writing he did, so. Make it into an audio podcast, that way you can archive it and can listen to it on my phone. Could be something to think about. Again, I need to do technology research. That's mostly the thing I'm learning. Marzalian says, common reading to discuss per week. I have been thinking, in the future, I'm not going to do it very immediately. In the future, I will do some sort of, like, it's kind of like book club, basically. It's Monday night book club. We'll read something, and anybody who wants to can come hang out. Nick Klein says, format of the stream is pretty good. Thanks for all these updates, by the way, guys. it's really hard to be the person on camera and also staying aware of how things are going and like, is this coming across weird? Is this coming across terribly? Is this interesting? So I appreciate the feedback. I'm workshopping the stream. I came out of 2 years of creative writing workshop. I love the workshop format. Like 3 people have said, put your girlfriend on the stream. So Megan, apparently you are now coming on the stream sometime. Spice it up sometimes. The theme music should make a comeback. G Blue Cheese says, hey G Blue Cheese, how you doing? Megan, my girlfriend, says more Kingsley, which is her dog / our dog. If he would be anything but absolutely crazy on the stream, I think that's an option. What did you think of the goldfish finch in comparison to the Secret History? Alexis, I apologize. I'm going to get to that question another time. I'm really behind on comments. Ask me that another time. I'm not ignoring your question. I just don't have the budget time-wise to get to all of these. I'm sorry. I'm skipping through some comments. Lots of people. Okay. Literally everyone said, love the book club idea. Good to know. Megan wants to read Harry Potter. I'm down. I miss Harry Potter. It's been like 4 years. Okay. So it turns out, Alexis, I actually have time. I caught all the way up on comments. All of them were just saying, yes, I want to do book club. Goldfinch in comparison to The Secret History. Okay, so Secret History, to me, is an exceptional read, specifically if you are in college when you read it. Because being on a college campus is a like central part of that book. And I think it is super fun to be, especially if you go to a liberal arts school, to be on a campus and read that book. I'm not saying you have to be in college or on a liberal arts campus to enjoy that book. I think it's an exceptional book and you can enjoy it anytime. That's one of the like very surface level differences for me, is read that book on a college campus and you're, especially like fall or late winter when it's kind of, like this time when it's getting kind of spooky outside, it's a good time to read it. Goldfinch, you can read that one whenever. That is a massive book, but it's really smart. It's hard too. It takes you for a ride. Yeah, Sadie says she was haunted and it gave her nightmares. Yeah, me too. Like, that book is so spoopy. It's a spoopy book. Jack says, try the wine, and it's a reference that I didn't get. Hey, guess what? It looks weird. He said, if you don't get the reference, it's going to look really weird. I don't get the reference, Jack. Sorry. I feel bad. I've let you down. You can explain it if you want. Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson is a lot of fun. Wiseman's Fear. Oh, that's the Rothfuss novel. Okay. Man, you are better at me than I am at my own bookshelf. That is brilliant. Who was it that said that? It was, oh, where'd that comment go? Matt, thank you. Yes, Patrick Rothfuss. I have like 2 of his books. I've not read either of them. They're really big. Are they easy reads? They're really big. I haven't actually even cracked them. They were gifts. Let's see. Can confirm he likes saying spoopy. Alexis, did you like Secret History? Did it help to read it at a liberal arts college? It helped me. Did you just say spoopy? Yes, I did. Sadie, coming in with the facts. Did you know that Bret Easton Ellis's novels and The Secret History take place in the same fictional universe? Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. They were classmates together, right? Donna Tartt and Bret Easton Ellis / like maybe in a relationship at one point. Were they married? Yeah, so that doesn't surprise me knowing that they had such a personal relationship. But yeah, I would have never known that fact. Deeran just described something which I think a lot of us have felt before in our lives, which is, he says, the thing about The Secret History is that I hated it the majority of the time, but when I finished it, I knew it was one of the best novels I'd ever read. I don't even know how that worked. Yeah, that's fiction for you. It disturbs you. It disturbs the comfortable and comforts the disturbed, to bring it full circle. Yeah, they were friends. BFFs, dating. Okay, so we're getting either good friends or dating. Either one. Yeah, that's cool enough for me. This is also a sad fact. I have not read any Bret Easton Ellis. American, whatchamacallit is his book, right? I literally have it somewhere on these shelves. This is why it would be nice to have them organized, is because then I could find the books. Isn't this super fascinating live streaming? You looking at the back of my head while I watch the TV, or watch the bookshelf? I have that book somewhere. I just don't know where it is. Somebody provides me the name of that. American Psycho. Jesus. Thank you. Let's see here. It's a masterpiece, but oh god, it's awful. I've heard, okay, so the one thing about American Psycho I've heard is that some classmates of mine in grad school refused to read it. They were assigned it like 3 times one of them was assigned it like 3 times in undergrad, and after the first time refused to read it again and refused to buy it again, and that's the entire story I know about that whole book. I don't even think you book. William McManus says, Billy, can all of you who are here on the live stream, can you just go down into the comments right now and say, congratulations, William? William has a child now. William is one of my best friends. His name is Billy. And he has a child who I have not yet seen. And I want to see his child someday. Someday, very soon. Hopefully in the next month or 2, Billy. We should do that. Yeah, he has a child. This is huge. Thanks for stopping by, Billy. Let's see here. You said, I don't even think you book. Oh, Billy. Billy and I are the ones who started that whole, I've talked about it before on the live stream, the like Great Book Society, where we read a whole bunch of books every week or 2. Ever read any Faulkner? I'm reading Absalom for a class right now, and it is something else. Something else good or something else bad, G Blue Cheese? I have only read excerpts of Faulkner. The thing about grad school, it turns out, is that a lot of times you don't have time to read an entire book, or you don't get assigned an entire book. You get assigned sections of books. So I got assigned a section of The Sound and the Fury. You get assigned a section so that you can talk about a certain thing that the section is doing. So I've read a very little bit of Sound and the Fury, and that's it. Bret Easton Ellis has a podcast? I'm going to have to look at that. Congratulations, William. You guys are the best. Let's see. Haunted by Polonic. Yeah, I mean, Polonic's about as out there as possible. So if you can get through that, you can probably get through lots of stuff. William, I don't even think you child. This is the best. As I Lay Dying by Faulkner is excellent. Sadie, why have you read all of the books that I haven't read? It's really sad. Yes, I will come to you, Billy. I think that is only fair. You have a child and I do not, and so I'm going to come to you. Maybe even there's a little race that happens in December. Will you be there? Because I might be there. I'm trying to plan that out right now. Oh, Sadie also raises the point, A Rose for Emily. Yeah, A Rose for Emily I have read. Okay, so if people listen to the podcast S-Town, yeah, that's the name of the podcast. So it uses a lot of references to the short story A Rose for Emily, which I've written like 3 papers on in undergrad. It's a really brilliant story, especially for its time. Yeah, good point. So I haven't read any novels. I've read A Rose for Emily like 10 different times because I had to write papers on it, but... How do you analyze a section without the book? G Blue Cheese says. Excellent question. So, so what you do is like if you're taking a class on we took a class called The Theory of Fiction. So you're talking every week on different aspects of fiction. This could be like different techniques in order to write fiction better, different like almost moral or ethical concerns when you're writing fiction, like what's fiction versus nonfiction. I actually read the part of The Sound and the Fury in a class on poetics, which is how you, like, that one I would say is basically, like, how you use language in a way to, I'm trying to think how to word that, like, the argument there is that poetry does one specific thing that none of the other genres do, which is that it's, like, I don't know. I don't want to get too into this. It's like this weird argument that like it has something to do about like spoken or expressed speech rather than just language written down. So, anyways, we were reading in there about I think it was just on description, like one of those. So a section on description. So that's your answer. Long-winded and not very concise answer. Faulkner is just like a long-winded Stephen King, no? Jack is getting his kicks saying all of the most crazy stuff tonight. Dostoevsky, like maybe none. Alexis, please don't hate me. I think I've maybe read none. Let's see here. Okay, guys, we are 94 minutes in. There's a short story I need to read real quick. We're gonna read the short story, and then I'll hang out for a couple more minutes and we'll get out of here. So let's do that. How's that sound? I am still not done with this beer. Okay, so the short story, if this is your first time here, this is what we've done past couple times. Real quick, Sadie says, one of her favorite quotes comes from As I Lay Dying. How often I have lain beneath rain on a strange roof, thinking of home. I like that. Okay, so in the past couple weeks on the live stream, I have been reading from this anthology of short stories called New American Fiction. What I love about it is that it is mostly new stuff, so it's pretty recent stuff, and to me, this is the best anthology I've read in the last couple of years that kind of shows the very different and exciting things that contemporary fiction can do in the short story form. So you have those anthologies which are like, here's what the classic short stories do. This one is more saying, look at the exciting new things that short stories can do. By new, of course, we mean old, because all new art is just old art in new colors. Let's see. Okay, so I've picked different stories from this every week, and I've read any Camus. Yeah, what's that one? Crap. It's Albert Camus, right? Is it Myth of Sisyphus? Yeah. Anyways, moving on. I am going to read a short story from this called... It's a very short story. It's by Robert Coover. It's called Going for a Beer. The Stranger. Okay. Yeah. Good call. I have read that. Okay, so Going for a Beer by Robert Coover. He finds himself sitting in the neighborhood bar, drinking a beer, at about the same time that he began to think about going there for one. In fact, he has finished it. Perhaps he'll have a second one, he thinks, as he downs it and asks for a third. There is a young woman sitting not far from him who is not exactly good-looking, but good-looking enough, and probably good in bed, as indeed she is. Did he finish his beer? Can't remember. What really matters is, did he enjoy his orgasm, or even have one? This he is wondering on his way home through the foggy night streets from the young woman's apartment, which was full of Kewpie dolls, the sort won at carnivals, and they made a date, as he recalls, to go to one, where she wins another. She has a knack for it. Whereupon, they're in her apartment again, taking their clothes off, she excitedly cuddling her new doll in a bed heaped with them. He can't remember when he last slept, and he's no longer sure, as he staggers through the night streets, still foggy, where his own apartment is. His orgasm, if he had one, already fading from memory. Maybe he should take her back to the carnival, he thinks, where she wins another Kewpie doll. This is at least their second date, maybe their fourth. And this time they go for a romantic nightcap at the bar where they first met, where a brawny dude starts hassling her. He intervenes, and she turns up at his hospital bed, bringing him one of her Kewpie dolls to keep him company, which is her way of expressing the bond between them, or so he supposes, as he leaves the hospital on crutches, uncertain what part of town he is in, or what part of the year. He decides that it's time to call the affair off. She's driving him crazy. But then the brawny dude turns up at their wedding and apologizes for the pounding he gave him. He didn't realize, he says, how serious they were. The guy's wedding present is a gift certificate for 2 free drinks at the bar where they met, and a pair of white satin ribbons for his crutches. During the ceremony, they both carry Kewpie dolls that probably have some barely hidden significance, and indeed do. The child she bears him, his or another's, reminds him, as if he needed reminding, that time is fast moving on. He has responsibilities now, and he decides to check whether he still has the job that he had when he first met her. He does. His absence, if he has been absent, is not remarked on, but he is not congratulated on his marriage either. No doubt because, it comes back to him now, Before he met his wife, he was engaged to one of his colleagues, and their coworkers had already thrown them an engagement party, so they must resent the money they spent on gifts. It's embarrassing, and the atmosphere is somewhat hostile, but he has a child in kindergarten and another on the way, so what can he do? Well, he still hasn't cashed in the the gift certificate. So, for one thing, what the hell? He can go for a beer. Two, in fact, and he can afford a third. There's a young woman sitting near him who looks like she's probably good in bed, but she's not his wife, and he has no desire to commit adultery, or so he tells himself, as he sits on the edge of her bed with his pants around his ankles. Is he taking them off or putting them on? He's not sure, but now he pulls them on and limps home, having left his beribboned crutches somewhere. On arrival, he finds all the Koopy dolls, which were put on a shelf when the babies started coming, now scattered around the apartment, beheaded and with their limbs amputated. One of the babies is crying, so while he warms up a bottle of milk on the stove, he goes into its room to give it a pacifier, and discovers a note from his wife pinned to its pajamas, which says that she has gone off to the hospital to have another baby, but decides that he has had enough trouble for one lifetime, and is about to walk on when he is stopped by that Hulk who beat him up, and who now gives him a cigar because he's just become a father, and drags him into the bar for a celebratory drink. Or, rather, several. He has lost count. The celebrations are already over, however, and the new father, who has married the same woman who threw him out, is crying in his beer about the miseries of married life and congratulating him on being well out of it, a lucky man. But he doesn't feel lucky, especially when he sees a young woman sitting near them who looks like she'd probably be good in bed, and decides to suggest that they go to her place. But too late. She's already out the door with the guy who beat him up and stole his wife. So he has another beer, wondering where he's supposed to live now, and realizing it's the bartender who so remarks while offering him another on the house, that life is short and brutal, and before he knows it, he'll be dead. He's right. After a few more beers and orgasms, some vaguely remembered, most not, one of his sons, now a race car driver and the president of the company he used to work for, comes to visit him on his deathbed, and, apologizing for arriving so late, "I went for a beer, Dad, things happened," says he's going to miss him, but it's probably for the best. For the best what, he asks, but his son is gone, if he was ever there in the first place. Well, you know, life, he says to the nurse who has come to pull the sheet over his face and wheel him away. Well, that was the trip. That was crazy. Going for a Beer by Robert Coover. And actually that was 4 pages, so we're up to a whopping, I think 19 pages for the night. If you haven't read any today, you can count these 19 pages towards your reading. How sad was that? Oh, man. Okay, best comment of the night. Alexis, I have liked your comments tonight, but this is by far your best comment. Big Mood 2018. All right, let's see here. I'm trying to read back through old comments. Alexis, I may have read a lot of Camus. I've read Sisyphus, The Stranger. I feel like I've read The Plague. So maybe I've read a lot. Let's see here. I own too many unread books to consider buying anymore, Jack says. Yeah, agreed. Oh, damn, this story is wild, Zadie says. Yeah, I couldn't catch my breath. It's hard to read. LOL, the whole story is fast-forwarded. Yeah, like in the middle of a sentence, you jump forward a year, or another girlfriend, or another kid. Ugh. Megan says, is this click? That movie is so effing depressing. Like, Adam Sandler. I saw your face on the cover. I thought it was going to be funny. I watched your movie, and I cried, and thought way too much about my parents' relationship. Great story. Title and author again. It was Going for a Beer by Robert Coover. And just like that, we're one more story down in that anthology. Madam Sandler, Jack says. Cool. Oh goodness, I like that a lot, Sadie says. Very cool story, Marzalian says. Yeah, that was good. We should do, I like the really short stories for this format. I'll have to find some really good short stories for this. Just read Coover for the first time a few months ago. The 2 Brunus novels are fantastic. So, funny story, actually. Really quickly, last story of the night. One of the people who was on my committee in grad school, if I'm remembering this correctly, was kind of like tutored and mentored by Robert Coover, which is major clutch. That's huge. She had some really cool stories about him, and that's nuts. Probably stories I shouldn't repeat. Like, it's just not right to do that drama thing. But he like, not in a bad way. He was just an interesting character. His short stories are really good. Let's see here. Artsalian, I did watch Click in like 1998, so, or maybe early 2000. But let's see here. Normal says, just wanted to say, Ryan, that your channel got me through my shitting summer job, so thanks for that, and I'm loving Hunt for Red October. Normal, thanks for hanging out. This has been so much fun. We've had a lot of fun tonight. This has been good. At least I've had a ton of fun. I hope you have too. Yeah, thanks for coming out, guys. I'm going to start wrapping it up here. I'm mostly nervous that my phone will freak out and this thing won't get uploaded to YouTube, so let's all cross our fingers for that. Cross your fingers for me. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. We're going to do this every Monday, I think, at least for now. Okay, Megan is giving me crap because Click actually came out in 2006. Okay, I probably watched it in 2007 then. Thank you. It's all a really long time ago. She's so sassy. I love her. Let's see here. He's a good actor. He just has a bad time finding material. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he seems good. He's just, he's very typecast. Thanks for the live stream, Ryan, says Sadie. Thanks for hanging out. So happy to have you here, always. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to get off of here. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys in videos. I'm putting out videos every single day, but if those aren't your style, just come back here next Monday. I have no idea what time it'll be. Keep an eye out for that, but we'll keep hanging out. So thanks so much for making my Monday a lot brighter. So I will see you guys here pretty soon. See ya.